I changed places. Normally I sit there because society is changing places. My great-grandmother was a slave. My grandmother was a domestic. My mother was an hourly worker, and her mother didn't tell her that she loved her. My mother told me she loved me every day of my life. I have many problems today, but self-esteem is not one of them because she told me she loved me. My great-grandfather was a slave. My grandfather, born in 1871 in Aberdeen, I think it was Aberdeen, Mississippi, I believe it was, 1871, probably born into slavery, certainly sharecropper. My father, Johnny Will Smith, mother's Juanita Smith. Johnny Will Smith was a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a genius, I'm role modeling. It's the luck of the gene pool, but it's also being counted, being present, being available, being respected, having share of voice. And I didn't get here by myself. And we're sitting here with the director of the Census Bureau, and this is not going to make, again, complete sense to you immediately, but bear with me just a moment. This is extremely important because slaves were not counted. We were property. And situations have changed, life has shifted. We have launched about 3 years ago the Hope Financial Wellness Index. I call it the Hope 700 Credit Score Index as a vernacular. And you can pull it up on your phone. You tell me your zip code, I'll tell you how you're living. We have mapped with the power of Experian data every zip code in America by credit score. And we found a lot of things, Director. One of the things we found is if you live in a 580 credit score neighborhood, black or brown urban or white rural, does not matter. You live in a 580 credit score neighborhood. You live to 61 years old. You don't get Social Security until you're 65. Hold on. 15 minutes away from that 580 credit score neighborhood, Director, is a 700 credit score neighborhood, and you live to 81. 81 to 96. You live 20-year longer lifespan, 15 minutes apart from a 580 credit score neighborhood. I'm taking the emotions out of it, replacing it with data. Here's some more data for you. There's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in all of America's history. Because 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot, they go shopping. Here's what happens in a 580 credit score neighborhood. Now, I want you guys to keep me honest here. We're going to have some church here. If I'm wrong, I want you to stop me. In agreement? Okay, check it out. 580 credit score neighborhood. Doesn't matter whether you're black and brown urban or white rural. Director, you're about to witness a little magic here. Here's what you see. A check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, next to a pawn shop, with a church down the street, trying to make you feel a little bit better once a week. That's your neighborhood therapist. And by the way, I'm gonna pick on black people for a minute. He would say, I don't want to go to a psychologist. I don't want to go to a shrink. Somebody might think you're crazy. If you're black in America and don't think you're a little crazy, you are crazy. Can I get an amen? So the church is a way that we release pressure. We go in there, we hoop and we holler and we sing and we praise because church was the only thing, Director, coming up in slavery, the only place you could actually communicate, sing, express yourself. The only freedom was church. So we use that today as a way to express ourselves, to release some pressure. And here's what I know. You go from a black and brown urban neighborhood to a white poor neighborhood, white rural, 580 credit score, you see the same thing. Check casher, payday loan lender, rental-owned store, title lender, liquor store, pawn shop, church down the street. The only difference is how we riot. Poor people who are black and brown riot in the streets, and my poor white friends riot in the ballot box. They're frustrated. And we have got to do something other than be frustrated. We've got to be optimistic. We got to find a reason to have hope, a reason to move forward together. And the reason that today is so powerful is that we found in these 580 credit score neighborhood is, and the director already knows this, but you may not, and we're about to have some magic here. The reason that he's here is I'm making a business case for us, not an emotional case, not a charity case. You don't want to hand up. You don't want to hand out. You want to hand up. It's the James Brown version of affirmative action. Open the door, I'll get it myself. But you can't do that without the data. So we found, Director, that in these neighborhoods, yes, the one of the indexes was the age by which you leave this earth, 61 years on average. 580 credit score neighborhood, 60% of them graduate high school. 700 credit score neighborhood, 96% graduate from high school. 580 credit score neighborhood, 30 to 40% home ownership rate, sometimes 28% ownership rate. 700 credit score neighborhood, 70% home ownership rate. 2-parent households in a 700 credit score neighborhood. 1-parent household in a 580 credit score neighborhood. None of this is surprising you, right? Because not only are you a director, you have a diverse background, so you get this. But all of the negative things that we are frustrated with, crime, obesity, diabetes, depression, help me out, broken households, low GDP, gross domestic product. As a result of that, 580 credit score, high cost of credit, which means you have no choice in many cases but to go be into an illegal enterprise, because the only way you can make a profit if you're paying 30% for your cost of money is to do something, with all due respect, illegal. I mean, what do you think a drug dealer is, if not an illegal, unethical entrepreneur? He may be dumb, but he's not stupid. He understands import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, and logistics. Can I get an amen? And all a gang leader is a frustrated union organizer. I'm giving you guys some good stuff. It's going right over your heads. My point is, there's genius and brilliance in these communities. But we've got to lift them up in a way that allows them to be seen, counted, and that matters. And so people sometimes, Director, want to pick on black and brown people as if we're just like the only problem. First of all, the largest group of poor people in this country, he knows this, are poor whites. There are more poor whites than poor anybody else. But where do you think NASCAR came from? Moonshine running in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm dead serious. They were running from the police, realized it was not a long-term business plan, realized that it was illegal and wouldn't last, but they were good at driving. So they stopped the moonshine running, start driving on the beach, on the dirt, in the highways, and literally 5 generations later, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry called NASCAR. We can have rainbows after storms, but we have got to get the data underneath us, and we have got to start mapping these communities for something other than a problem. And so to have you here, 4 generations from slavery, in some cases 3 generations from slavery in my family alone, means it gives enormous dignity to us. And I thank you for being here because, well, over to you.
Well, Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was your introduction.
Yeah, where's my question? Well, hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come to Hope Forum and to speak and to share stories like you have shared. They're incredibly important. Today, I'm here to sell the value of the census data in helping to inform communities, to add value to communities. You know, we come every, year 7 or so. We do outreach to communities and we say a decennial census is coming up. We need it. You need it for your representation, for federal funding, et cetera. And what we found, especially because of the pandemic, was that we needed to have a continuous relationship with all communities, especially communities of color, communities that have been historically undercounted, because we know that we cannot complete our mission to provide communities with the data they need to improve, to do economic development, community needs assessments. We can't do it alone. We have to have this community of the whole approach. So community of the whole approach. Right. That includes Census Bureau, it comes local communities, elected officials, nonprofit organizations. We all need to come together with the common goal of recognizing the value that data bring in understanding where we've come from, where we are now, but most importantly, how we need to get to the next level. That's why I'm here. I'm here to basically say thank you for all the efforts that you've made in terms of helping with the 2020 census and more generally with getting the message out of the value of the data. We're now continuously reaching out to express the value of the data to see if we can come to you, to come to your community, show you. We have data dissemination experts. We have online census academies to show you how to access the data, to solve your problems, to apply for grants, to do whatever it is that you need to do to understand your community. Because after all, we are becoming an increasingly and beautifully diverse nation. It is our biggest asset. And the train has left the station. The society is acculturating to us. There's no choice. We have information to help advance that in a real way and to make communities better.
And I want to come back to something you said specifically, but is it not true that today we're announcing something special?
You tell me.
Aren't we incorporating U.S. Census data? I mean, these government leaders, they have all the power in the world. They don't know how to drop a mic. This guy is he's the director. Let me tell you something. This is how you get your money. If you're a mayor, if you're a county official, if you're the governor, if you don't count, you don't count. Literally, this is how money gets allocated. Am I right?
That's true.
How money gets allocated. He's so humble. This is how money. So black people weren't counted because we would count too much going back a couple years ago. So today, he's just so humble. He's just sneaking it in here. He's allowed, the U.S. Census now has an agreement with Operation Hope to embed U.S. Census into the Hope Financial Wellness Index starting in 2024, I believe. So thank you very much. And I know you're the government, you gotta be non-emotional and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited.
I'm naturally a very calm guy, but if anyone who knows me knows that I'm incredibly passionate about public service, and I'm incredibly passionate about showing how the Census Bureau is living its values of objectivity and transparency, scientific integrity, and independence too.
Yes.
And its efforts coming together with Operation Hope of showing the public data that's available that we can infuse into existing platforms that can create new power and new insights in ways that wouldn't otherwise exist.
So this has never been done before. There's never in the history of this country been a mapping of you. Now every zip code in America will have several overlays of objective data that can inform and inspire investors, bankers, employers, city leaders, to allow them to want to heat map for the positive growth of a neighborhood. They have the data now to be able to act on that. Soon now, census data. And the census data, people understand, every agency in the government came out of the Treasury Department, every one. There was the White House, Department of War, 1860s, and then the Treasury Department. Well, one of the Treasury Department offices was a census, and weights and measures, labor, if you think about it, housing, health, commerce,
Census Bureau, Commerce,
Health and Human Services, all these agencies, it all deals with money. Well, census is a way you allocate resources, but you can't allocate what you can't count. So if people are undercounted, if they're hiding from the data, they're actually starving their community. Is that right?
That's correct.
If you're hiding from the data, you're starving your own community, because the public leaders are not going to get the resources to then invest in your neighborhoods. So you mentioned you mentioned the demographic changes. 40% of this country today is black and brown. It's never been done. That's never been the case in the history of this country.
It's only going to go up too.
It's only going to go up. And what people are, no one wants to admit it, but what people are scared to death of is if minorities, and this may be the most sort of well-meaning person on the planet, no racism, whatever, they're concerned about their wallet. If minorities are growing up in population, people with wealth are getting older, and the majority population becomes a majority population that are at the moment creating GDP, a lot of GDP. The concern is the country, if this group does not become financially literate and don't become contributors, the whole country in 30, 40 years becomes poor. I'm just going to say it. Nobody says it. I'm just telling you that's what the concern is. So it's really not black or brown, or it's not white or black or red or blue. It's green. It's economic. If we can coalesce this data and make the case, we would make the case because you're objective, make the case with the data that these are viable communities, and then use the power of financial literacy to empower people, it then makes sense that all boats should rise.
That's correct. We need to take this data and use it to leverage the improvement of communities of all color. And so that's what we're about. That's why we're happy to partner with you and any other organization. There's all this rich data. You didn't mention economic data. We have publicly economic data, available economic data to place on top of any platform that anyone has to add value in terms of economic insights, looking at new entrepreneurship, putting in factories, whatever. So lots of tools exist. We're happy to share them with you and strengthen our partnership.
And folks can this is a data that's available by going to the Census website?
Yes, data.census.gov. It will provide that information.
Thank you for your partnership. We're honored to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the Hope Global Forums.
It was an honor. Thank you.